Hey, welcome back to From the Roots Up, the podcast where we have chronicled Hickory FC's magical season, match by match, trophy by trophy, and all the stories in between. Before I always forget to do this, or maybe not, but I've got to thank the folks that make this possible for us. That is, of course, my man Lenny behind the camera, Chris, who's actually here today. He's behind the camera as well. Jay for letting us be here, and Jeremy at Barley Market as well.
Yeah, today's episode's definitely a special one. You know, we've talked to so many different aspects of the team. We've talked to players, coaches, staff, media staff, who's also all hoarded behind the camera here now again. But, you know, we thought it was finally time to just keep working our way and really just make it to the top. The guys who brought this thing going from the ground up, the guys who had turned this dream into what it is today. And the thing that we can't stop talking about, but we got the owners of Hickory FC here to tell its magical story and talk a little bit more about it.
Just real quick, should we set the stage and say everyone listed before us is going to be way more entertaining than me and you?
Hey, just to set the stage, we're going to interrupt you 37 times.
Yeah.
That's also definitely going to
Is there a
happen.
script? Sorry, guys, I didn't know there was a script.
Oh, you're good. No, and we can't forget Johnathon. We got the owners and the man that makes it run from day to day, Johnathon. And we've heard from him before, but we're happy to have him back. So from launching a brand new club, and I think we talked to Johnathon about this, from I guess a dream or a discussion over coffee, to in the second year, which I don't know that it's been done before, lifting a national championship trophy. In San Francisco, it's been an absolute, as a fan, I know and I've said this every episode, it's been an unbelievable season as a fan, so I can't imagine what it's like as staff and owners to do that. So I guess we'll talk about how it all started, how you built the culture that's really taken over Hickory and the club itself, and where this club is headed next. And we've got some good questions that they said they'll answer, so we'll see.
Oh, we didn't say we'd answer. We said you could ask them.
He specifically said we'll bounce around it appropriately. Very, very good political
We'll
answer.
avoid it if we need to.
We're pretty good at that.
Now, we talked to Johnathon, so we heard a little bit about the story about the kind of the introduction of the team. So we always try not to like repeat questions. Some of them we can't help but not ask. You know, we can't help but ask about app every time because it's just nuts. But instead of kind of reiterating that story, what I'm kind of curious about is the inspiration for the team. You know, I'm always really fascinated, especially as the culture of soccer is growing in America. To an extent, we try to build our own culture, but we also try to mimic others. So I'm curious, is there any teams or regionalities? I've noticed in America, it kind of feels like, especially with the newer MLS teams, like Atlanta United, even like the older ones like Seattle Sounders, even Charlotte, there's a big aspect of like South American soccer that they're trying to kind of imitate to an extent, whether it's like the pregame marches, the flares, the drum styles. So I'm curious, is there any teams or regions that you guys were interested in kind of mimicking, or was this all unique, independent?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there was a team that we looked at, right? The reality is, the way I see it, is we didn't even decide that. The community decided what it was ultimately going to look like, right? So, you know, where this started is I used to work for Eric, right? Going back, 2018?
Something
Is
like
it
that.
sooner?
It's probably been 5 or 6 years.
2017
Yeah.
maybe. And coming right off the side of, you know, a soccer pitch, I was a collegiate coach, played and all that, and started working for Eric, and my first time being under fluorescent lighting, which I think you actually asked me in the interview as well. Do you recall?
Well,
you know, how do you feel like about
I said, yeah, you're going to need to get used to that because
Yeah.
it's unhealthy and nobody should ever get used to it.
Yeah.
And number two, I told you, like, we have to figure out a way to keep you close to the sport.
100%.
Yeah,
So we talked
about
about coaching and this and that. And probably a couple of years later, we kind of kicked around this idea. I think there was some noise about a USL team potentially coming in. It never happened. We kicked it around, and then going back, a couple of years now, 3 years, we kind of put together a bit of a plan, and here we are.
I'll tell you how I remember it. You want that? You want that story?
There you
I'll tell
go. Go
how
for
I remember it. So Tom was working for me, and he's utter pit bull. You know, typical, you know, athlete. He's not afraid to break something and then put it back together again, which I'm not either. Johnathon knows this. And one day as I remember it, you came blasting in my office with like a little piece of paper and said, "Do you think a semi-pro soccer team could work in Hickory, North Carolina?" And I was like, I don't know. Like, what? Tell me what that even means, right? Because I had played soccer in high school, followed it for a while, and then fell away from that particular sport, even though I track just about everything. And Tom kind of educated me on lower league soccer in this country. We talked about Asheville City because that's where he had just come from. And I think my response was, this sounds like a hobby, and I don't have time for a hobby. But it was
very wrong.
It was interesting enough. Yeah, right. It was interesting enough that I said, let's put it on the shelf and then come back and look at it again. And we had, Hickory was not that far off from passing the $40 million bond referendum that has now become what is the City Walk and the sales and the downtown and what's going on out towards Crawdad Stadium and the new business center. Like you didn't really see the outcome of the investment yet, but you were starting to see it. And so one of the things we said, let's breathe for a minute and see what kind of businesses start coming into town. And you started seeing breweries open up. And that's when we brought it back off. Now, Tom put some pressure on me and said, there's other teams looking at this market. So if we're going to do something, we need to go. So that was kind of the beginning of, it was the spark. And then so many other people, including our other owners, the Pleasants, the Longs, the Smiths, they helped throw gasoline on that spark.
And Johnathon as well.
Jonathan was a huge
working,
part of it.
So at the time, Johnathon was working for me in mortgage recruiting and was working for App. I don't know, do a lot of people, do you talk about that openly? I don't know if a lot of people
Do
know.
people know that?
We talked about it on
came
his
from App.
episode.
Yeah, so everybody at this point knows I worked for App FC for their first 3 years, and then I switched my allegiance to here. Of course.
It's really interesting to hear you guys talk about this because, everything you're saying to me right now sounds like a team that's, set up for failure. Because, first off, I don't know how much, you guys talk about it, but one thing I noticed in the NPSL is that it almost seems like a volume league where they're just let's just get all these teams, a couple things are going to stick, and those are the ones that'll stick around. So, first off, we're looking at a league that, I don't know what the numbers are behind it, but huge fail rate in a league where, the Bristols, the Charlotte Hops. I mean, we're going to these away games and there's 200 people a game. And now we're getting rushed into it because we're oh shoot, we got to beat the other team. So it's all this that's almost set up for failure, which obviously did not. So I understand his sentiments of oh, let's slow down a little bit. But what do you think is the driving factor for not being that? You think, is it the community? Is there something special you guys did? Or
well, let me jump in and then Tom, you add to this. You're not wrong with what you just said. That what you heard was, well, that seems like you'd be set up for failure. Right. I mean, this is a master class of how not to start a business. Probably if you're taking a business class from CBCC or LR or whatever. But I disagree with that. Also, it actually is how anything good starts. It's really with if there's a ounce of possibility and interest, just don't say no right away. So start there. And then we had to learn what you just said, which is how are the leagues set up? What are the risks? What are the rewards? And then ask the right questions and be in a position to mitigate that risk as much as possible. You should tell the story about, and this, by the way, is not throwing anybody under the bus. It's just what happened. Do you want to tell the story about the first time we talked to NPSL leadership? So there's a period of time where you agree, you go under an agreement.
Yeah.
But there's a period of time where you can back out, and there's no punitive damages, and so you sign the agreement, and then you've got some time to decide, hey, this isn't going to work. Maybe you've got a facilities problem. Maybe you don't raise the amount of capital that you wanted to raise. Whatever the reason might be. So we had time to sort of learn that. We were on a call with NPSL leadership.
Yeah.
And why don't you tell that story?
And I get what they're trying to do. I think it's important to say they're trying to intimidate you a little bit. And as you said, there are a lot of teams that start and struggle with this. But basically, we're on this call. It's an interview. And they tell us that, look, guys, you need to know that you're going to lose money. That's the first thing you need to know. You're going to lose money year 1, year 2, year 3, maybe even year 4. And you'd be really lucky to win 2 games in your first season. And maybe second as well. This stuff just takes a lot of time. And honestly, we kind of sat there, and maybe it's how we are. We're just bullshit. That's not
well, as I recall, we weren't together. He was at his house, and I was I was sitting outside in a little chair I like to sit in so that Nikki doesn't hear me yapping in my annoying voice while I'm negotiating or having some business conversation, which is generally very boring. And as I recall, maybe this didn't happen. Maybe I dreamt this, but I get a text from Tom that's shut up. don't say what it is because he knows me. He knows that I'm probably about to say, oh, really? Well, do you want to put some money on that? Do you want to see, like, if we're going to lose money, if we're only going to win 2 games? We were prepared to lose money, though. I mean, starting a business, you need to capitalize in such a way where you understand it's going to take time before, things start equaling themselves out a little bit. But I think it was good for us also because it got us even more competitive than we already were.
Yeah.
Well, I think I don't know about the money situation, but I think as far as the wins go, far exceeded we're going to lose 2 games, or win 2 games, rather. I think they far exceeded that.
Yeah, how did we do year 1, JR?
Won the conference championship, going all the way, hosting a regional semifinal.
Refresh my memory, but who was the conference? Who did we beat to win the conference?
That was App FC, 3-0.
Absolutely.
Should have been 4-0.
So, I guess coming in as part of the squad, starting it from scratch. And I know we've talked about this in in your episode, but did you ever imagine that it would grow so quickly that we would win more than 2 games, win a conference championship in the first year, and then, obviously this year go all the way?
The growth surprised me in year 2, not in year 1. So kind of unlike, I had a little bit of a leg up on these guys being in the NPSL for 3 years. And being in the market in Boone, I knew the culture around here. I knew the demographic around here. I grew up in Hickory, so I knew it was going to be successful from the beginning, from a community standpoint. The growth in year 2 really surprised me, how quickly we grew. Year 1, not so much. Did I expect we'd win the conference championship in year 1? I thought that would be something that would happen in year 2, honestly. I thought it'd take a year or so. I thought we would do well. I figured we'd finish 3rd, 4th in the conference initially. Just to see kind of, it's getting our feet under us as a new club. That's what I thought. I was like, we make the playoffs year 1 in the conference. That's awesome accomplishment. Did not expect to win conference in year 1. Definitely did not expect to win it, all of it, in year 2 initially, until I saw the roster before this season started. Then I thought we had a chance. But no, year 1 did not expect the conference championship. Thought there would definitely be a year 2 possibility.
I think part of the success that we kind of harp on is, the fan, the atmosphere, and just like the growing culture again, around all this. I'm kind of curious, when you're looking at all the aspects of it, I don't know, when I look strictly from an objective standpoint, it seems like, wins is it. If you win, people are going to show up. But I mean, there are aspects of that prove not to be true. I mean, look at the national championship game that had maybe 1,000 people at best. So I know for me, what's I think the most important aspect of the game is that the atmosphere in the stadium. So what part of that, like, how intentional was it creating that atmosphere? What were you looking to aim to put in there? What kind of experience were you trying to create, and how important was that?
So I think first off, a lot of people don't maybe realize this, but you make an interesting point, Max. There is absolutely a correlation at this level between winning and, attendance and atmosphere. And there's also another key indicator as well, and El Farolito are a good example. And it is the ability to have like good concessions, to be able to sell alcohol and make it a really fun environment for people regardless. So obviously LR, huge partner for us, allowing us to have a really good concession setup, the ability to sell alcohol and obviously have our own beer made by OHB obviously gives us a leg up compared to a lot of teams, in the country, because I don't know how many can actually sell alcohol. I don't know if you know roughly.
Very few.
Yeah. So, I mean, that right away gives us a big leg up, to be honest.
And it was intentional.
Yeah.
None of it was, just dumb luck. The sponsors you partner with, it can't just be about the revenue. There needs to be some strategic reason for that partnership. Can they help us bring, a community that maybe we haven't tapped yet into the stadium? Can they give us ideas from a marketing perspective? Will they be honest with us when we mess up and tell us you messed up and you need to do better? Because there is no other way to get better. In my day job, I'm in software. And the hard part about software is that the negatives generally come from a really small portion of your user base. And if you're not careful, you think that that's your platform. We're screwed. Everything's broken. Everything's wrong. Nobody likes it. But out of the 10,000 users, you've got 20 that are complaining about something. What I loved about this sport was that when you go to a game, it's instant feedback. If you just pay attention, you get instant feedback. Are people happy with where they're sitting? Is the concession line too long? And you can see frustration on their face. Are they disappointed because they ran out of a size of something, a hoodie, a hat, a t-shirt, or something that they wanted? We're not afraid of that feedback. Like, we want that feedback. So going back to the intentionality part of it, doesn't mean that it was going to happen, but it was intentional. Who are we partnered with? Who are our partners? Who are our business partners? Those are very intentional, and the skills that they bring to the equation. Look, Gavin, I didn't know you before this all started, right? But I'm not taking credit. That's not what I'm about to say. But when you put people in a room together and things start to happen, well, then all of a sudden you meet Max, and then you meet Lenny, and then this happens, right? Because I saw what you were doing, and I saw the feedback from it, and there was this opportunity to say, hey, how can we connect some dots to make it maybe bigger and reach a bigger community? So it should all be intentional. And look, LR is another huge part of this. I mean, it's a huge part of this story. When I unfortunately couldn't make that meeting because I had to go out of town. And when Tom went in and met with, Kim Pate was the athletic director at the time in her department, I basically said to you, go in, say we want Moretz. They're going to laugh you out of the room, and then we'll move on to plan B. And they didn't laugh us out of the room because they saw the same thing, which was the amount of eyeballs that are going to be on that stadium during the summertime that maybe have never stepped foot on campus before. There's a strategic alignment. It's not just we're willing to pay this much for the lease agreement. They saw the value the other way as well.
Yeah, and I think we talked about that when we were doing Jonathan's episode, and it's crazy how much. Well, first off, there's so many like little intricacies. Like, I never even think about sponsorships, but just as you're saying it, I'm thinking about, like, again, it sounds silly to say, but like, you seem more legit when you have good brands behind you, good brands supporting you. You seem more legit. But I've always harped on the fact that, I mean, I don't want to say we got lucky, but like, getting Moretz is crazy huge. It's a very like professional looking stadium, and it gives you that professional feel, and I think because I always think about. So my hometown in Naples, Florida, they just got a USL League One team. And when I look at, I mean, it's not a bang guaranteed thing, but generally speaking, if you start a USL championship team in a good market, you're going to have a more decent crowd, whereas NPSL, not so much. Part of it's a stadium, but part of it is the like legitness, If you start an MLS team, people say, this is an MLS team, we got to go. So not having that, but having the legitness of the stadium, I was always fascinated, and because it feels legit, it feels like a real. Not that it's not.
Yeah.
But I think that's what people are attracted to.
I mean, I think it's the best stadium in minor league soccer. I'm pretty comfortable saying that, comparing and knowing some good ones. But I think from a facility standpoint, I think it is the best stadium. Now, is it, of course, perfect? We have American football lines on the field, and we hear some chatter around that from time to time. But when you think about the experience and atmosphere, we can generate in there, especially when we're near, filling the thing up, it doesn't get better, I don't think.
I think the lucky is that it's here, not that we got it. We were fortunate that they saw the vision, right? That we didn't have to beg and plead and then break the bank on an agreement that was one-sided, because it's not. We're fortunate that they're here. We're fortunate that families like the Moretz have put so much money into that campus and into those facilities. I mean, when you think about this stuff, man, you can tie our success back to probably, some generation of the Moretz family. I mean, if those things don't happen, maybe there's no LR University here anymore. I don't know. They certainly probably don't have a stadium like that, and people don't drive past it and wonder why they've never been to a football game or why they've never run on that track. So I think that cup stuff's kind of fun when you think about all the things that sort of have to line up to even put yourself in a position to then go into the room and say, this is what we want, and this is why it creates value both ways.
I think it's what you said about, we didn't know each other before this, and if we didn't know each other, I might not be introduced to Lenny. And to your credit, though, you did say, hey, let me introduce you to this guy because he can probably take this to another level. So it's amazing. And going back, however long with the Moretz family, like if that doesn't happen, maybe LR doesn't happen, maybe HFC doesn't happen, and then maybe this doesn't happen. Maybe we're not sitting right here. at this time. So it's crazy to think how.
Look, if this guy doesn't meet his wife, he's probably not in Hickory, and he never works for me, and we're never having this conversation.
Yeah.
And I've never met you, and I've never met you, and I don't know Lenny, and JR and I might bump into each other if I decide to go try to roll one day at a jiu-jitsu studio, and then he hurts me and I never come back again. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of fun to think about those. And by the way, doesn't that extend to our fans now? Like people that are going to games, that are meeting people, that they're sitting next to each other every game, and now they're becoming really good friends, and their kids are going to grow up together. And I don't know, and we feel that responsibility, by the way. It's a lot of really positive pressure.
And that kind of leads into, I guess, the question that I was getting ready to ask is how in the formation of this and like just the idea of it, how important was it to have like the community, like thinking about the community, thinking about the fan engagement, thinking about like all of that? How important? I mean, was that like something you're thinking about at the forefront of your mind, or is it just kind of like maybe eventually, the fans will?
Oh, so from my perspective, it was everything. So everything that I do, I look at it from a community perspective and a fan experience perspective. Because without the community support, there is no Hickory FC, right? So, I mean, if the Hickory decides next summer, like, hey, none of us are going to show up, well, that's tough, So, I mean, everything we do is from a community perspective. What is the community looking for? What kind of experience? How can we keep elevating the experience? Like Eric was saying, one of my greatest things that I absolutely love seeing every single game is just all the kids and all the young families there interacting with one another. After the game, Autograph Alley is by far my favorite part of every single game, by far. I love seeing the players interact with those kids and seeing like the smiles on those kids' faces. Regardless of the results, those kids just want to meet those players, have those positive interactions. So everything that I do from my perspective, I take like, all right, what's the community wanting? How's this going to impact the fan experience? And if it's a positive, let's try it out. And like Eric said, sometimes you got to just try things. It may not work out the way you want, and you adjust or you don't do it again. But everything starts with the community.
And I have to say, not just the kids, but like adult kids, because I swear to you, like it might sound corny, it might sound lame, but when I was standing there waiting for the autographs, dude, I felt like a kid standing with my dad, like waiting for, oh, here comes my heroes. They're going to sign. And what's wild is I can't remember the conversation that Leo was having with somebody else, but and I hadn't even met him at that point. And he was like, I don't know, ask them. Ask him. He knows more about it than I do. So it was crazy to think like, oh, man, he knows me, So like not even just kids, but like grown kids that just turn into a little child again. It's just amazing.
It is.
And it's kind of funny too, just on this note, I think we always find this funny, which is like, for me, a lot of the stuff that JR would suggest and Eric would suggest, I would find absolutely cringeworthy. I'm like, guys, this isn't what you do. We walk out, we kick the shit out of each other for 90 minutes, and then, one of us will win, and that's what we do. And so that mindset of, changing it to, an event, we're actually an event management company versus a semi-pro soccer team took a second for me, because I was just like, some of this stuff was kind of hard for me to be okay with from the perspective of like the halftime shows, and there's things being tossed around a mascot and this and that. Still, it's kind of funny watching. You probably found it funny watching me go through.
Oh, I think it's hilarious.
Yeah.
But I also don't want you to ever change, because the truth is, I don't know who we're going to be 5 years from now, 10 years from now. I know for me personally, what is a driving factor for me is for us to be in a position to have options, to be in a position to go big, to be in a position to do something nobody ever thought a club like Hickory FC could ever do down the road. And those things that are important to you are a huge part of being successful. However, JR, now we have no real statistics on what I'm about to ask, so this is anecdotal. Although for all I know, you may have actually some statistics. We got 6,300 or so fans to come to the Final Four game-ish. By the way, we don't count very well, and usually our numbers are more conservative than what the real number is.
Oh, yeah. I think we all figured that. I was like, okay. I will be standing there, and we'll see 6,400. I'm like, there's no way. There's way more.
Well, and what I love about that, Max, is that I'm hoping you're also going and looking at other teams' posts when they give their attendance, and you're like, not a chance you have that many.
Oh, yeah.
Hickory FC is lowering the number, and we're still beating you by 50%.
Yeah.
So here's my question.
Okay.
Of those 63 or 7,000 that came to that game. How many of them would you say are legit football fans, soccer fans? Like the percentage.
Oh, I would say less than 20%.
Okay, and that seems like a dramatically high
number,
number also,
yeah.
20%.
I was going to say 5%.
So let's say it's somewhere between 5 and 20%. But in game one, it was probably 2%.
Yeah.
You know, you have a lot of kids that maybe play for CPYSA or YMCA or Eagles or other groups, but they're not like legit European international fans of the game. Well, that number has probably 10x'd since we started that, which is why like Tom's vision of the sport itself is so valuable, layered on top of making sure that those fans that don't know anything about the sport have a really good time when they come to a game.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting you bring that up because it's kind of an ode to the idea that like working with differing ideas, and I mean there are things that are going to work, things that are not going to work. I mean aspects. I mean I'm sure you probably came in with this like British football mindset,
sure.
you know, but
Yeah.
and aspects of that will work, and aspects of it won't work. But I will say they didn't want to be prepped on any of these questions. They wanted the hard questions, so that made me think of this. I want. Speaking of ideas that we weren't a fan of, I'm curious, were there any ideas that were just like immediate no, whether they ended up working or were totally squashed? Was there anything someone brought up that was like a hard pass?
I think JR should take this one.
Oh, no, you guys go first. You guys go first, and I will follow up.
No, but here's the reason I say that is because he watches the madness from a very unique perspective. Come on, man. I'm sure you've got some. Do you want me to start?
I'll let you start. I'll follow up.
I was hell-bent on our logo looking a particular way. And to be fair, in retrospect, it looked like a bonsai tree. It didn't make any sense. It was a cool tree. Like, I'd get some ink of that tree, maybe. But it took me a minute to get off a... And by the way, I think we landed with what is one of, if not the best logos in the country. I mean, bar none. We get... But I was married to this particular idea for a minute, and it was a terrible idea. It would have been a terrible idea.
It would be cool if some of those phone calls were recorded between me and you. Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
I'm just imagining. Hey Tom, check your email real quick. What you think? Absolutely not. No. Next question.
And then, hey Eric, look at this. What do you think? He's like, not
a
happening.
chance.
And then obviously the other guys as well. You know, same sort of stuff going on across the board.
That's a healthy business.
Yeah.
Those are healthy partnerships.
Yeah, no, and again, it's just like I mean, we love talking about and showing this stuff because it shows what you have to do and be willing to accept, and you got to be able to take the no's, you know, just eat it, you know. Sometimes you have an idea. I mean, I'm sure we've all been there, and then retrospectively, you're like, damn, that was
JR, was there any? You have to have.
So
it.
yes, so my
He's like,
favorite,
I knew it.
my
Way to
favorite
loosen
one
the
that's
cap.
still ongoing because it makes him cringe and he gets worked up over it too is the mascot, right? I love like at lower level sports have a crazy mascot, right? Something go out in the community, interact, just have fun with it. Makes Tom cringe. Does not think we should have a mascot in some way, shape, or form. Eric's like, let's have something badass, right? Kind of intimidating, looking like, no, let's have something very kid-friendly. So, and you know, I've tried to find like that medium, having those difference of opinions, but it makes everything work because I'm coming from a different perspective. Obviously, Tom comes from a different perspective. Eric's coming from a different perspective. But I'm hell-bent on getting a mascot at some point in time, like some other staff members. And where that lands up, we'll see.
So I will say, at first I was like, this isn't happening. Like on this one, I'm putting my foot down. However, I'm becoming more open to it, and I've been shown a couple of things here and there which don't suck. So,
well, this lovely young lady came into my office,
and that's one of the ones that don't.
Who is in the studio with us right now, and she's the best. And she presented an idea, and it was a fantastic presentation, and she also took my feedback well because there were things I didn't like, and there were other things that she could see. My eyes were like, maybe I can sort of see it now. But part of what's happening with that is that you have someone who's passionate about something that's willing to put the time and the energy in on their own time, by the way, to present an idea and give you all the reasons why it's a good idea and what it could do for the club and the community. At the same time, there are currently things happening within that community that are organically starting to kind of design an idea. It wasn't because we stood in front of a whiteboard one day and drew some ridiculous character that we were going to jam down everybody's throat. Here's another one. People ask, how come Hickory FC doesn't have a nickname? How come we're not the Hickory FC? Don't even name a name because I don't want to do this right now.
One time?
No, I didn't say it.
No. One time he sends me this list. Do you remember? Of 10 potential names.
Hey, God bless AI. I can ask Claude anything, and it's going to give me 50 ideas.
At some point, I'm going to find that list and I can send it to you guys.
I have the list. It's great. Yeah,
we should pull it up at some point.
I'm not going to name names right now because then you're going to get a lot of like, oh my gosh, we should totally go with that.
Oh no, or oh my God, never. That would be terrible.
Well, do you have to have some horrible? That's all negotiation, though. I slid those in there just so you'd focus on the horrible ones when it was really one over here that I wanted you to think about. Yeah. But you know what? Hickory FC sounds so strong to me without anything behind it. There doesn't need to be. But if there is someday, it'll be because the fan base kind of chose it. Up the trees. I never heard that before. I didn't know what the heck that meant. I had to do research to find out that was a real thing. And okay, total honesty, I hated it when it first came out.
I loved it.
I hated it first. Now
I'm glad you liked it.
No joke. I will leave people in town around here when I'm talking to them, and instead of saying goodbye, I'll say up the trees. I love it now.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you, Gavin. Did Gavin just take credit for up the trees?
I was going to say, did you?
Absolutely. Well, not creating it, but me and Will started saying it on Facebook last year.
Okay.
And it caught on.
You know what? You're right.
Yeah,
I remember
do recall that now. Yeah.
So I need some royalties.
Your little piece of history.
When we start making money off of it. How about that?
So the sense of community being as important as it was and as big as it is, and thankfully so, because I don't think people. You talk about people doing stuff on their own time. Like this wouldn't be here if we didn't want to do something. If we weren't as enthusiastic about it as we are, and wanted to do something and wanted to find out kind of the behind the scenes stuff. So I'm very thankful that the community aspect of it for you guys is as big as it is. So I guess moving into this season, if we can, and I'll just ask you right off the bat, is there and I know it's easy to pick certain games or certain goals or certain matches, but like, is there one that you can point to as like, man, that's my favorite moment, my favorite goal, my favorite match?
Who's going first?
I have one for sure, but I
know who.
You guys want to think on this one?
So, for me, it's the conference championship against that because, obviously our biggest rival by far. Obviously, a lot of drama every time we played them, and all of that. We've played for 119 minutes. The stadium is ready to explode, and then Palaci scoring that goal, last kick of the game. I mean, write a better script. Good luck. You know what I mean? So to me, it actually isn't that close. Now, obviously, there's other big goals as well, but that game and that feeling in that moment was, frankly, as good, probably as a national championship in a lot of ways, especially it being at home as well in front of our fans. That's probably my favorite goal in history, I think, to be honest, that we've had.
So that's mine also. I have a close second, but there's a story to that goal that I found out later. And by the way, kudos to you guys in this podcast because I'm learning things and hearing stories that we didn't know about, which is awesome. The owners shouldn't know everything. We try to keep a little bit of a distance from the players and from the coaching staff. You hire the right coaches, you let them go do their job, right? And you kind of stay out of their way as much as you can. That goal for sure. I get chills thinking about it. And really it's the fans' reaction to the goal that gives me the chills. The fans deserved it. And that's a stupid thing to say when it comes to sports, right? Because it's like you can't control these things. And that it was Palaci, and that it was the guy that's been here since really day one, and that the fans really kind of know. But there's a story to that one, and that is Nico, who was our backup keeper at the time, who many don't know is a fantastic keeper. By the way, how about our keepers last year? You go from Jasper, who was a fan favorite, and the German that he was and the attitude that he brought to the game. Love Jasper. He goes and signs a pro contract and he's got to go to Germany. Then you bring in others. Mickey did not have a very good first outing. He struggled the first time he got out onto the pitch, and so our fans probably wondered, is this going to work? And then what the fans never got to see was Nico, who was top shelf. This guy was an incredible keeper. Okay, so here's the story. 2-3 minutes left in the second overtime. As I understood it, the coaching staff told Nico to go get warm. because he was going to go in for the PKs. Is this right, JR?
Could have played out that way.
Okay.
We'll say that.
So let's just, to be fair, I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just hearing this sort of, I'm not the coach. I wasn't standing next to Coach Rubio or Morales. I'm not listening. But this is the story I heard from Nico, by the way. He runs to the bathroom before this. He comes running out, and they're trying to find him. Where's Nico? Where's Nico? You're going in because we're about to go to PKs, and you're the PK keeper for us, right? So he comes running down. He's pulling up his socks. He's getting all ready. And as he's running down to get ready, Tomas comes and scores that goal. So Nico never gets into the game. This was going to be his crowning moment, right, to go in and win this game for Hickory FC. So I love that story. The other one for me that's a close second is when we went up 3-1 in San Francisco.
Yeah.
And boy, did I break a rule. So Tom and I, if you guys notice, we generally stand somewhere away from people because I just stress out and I want to be able to watch the game a little bit also. We go bonkers. We're hugging each other and jumping up and down. And I said, we're going to win the national championship. And then I thought to myself, did you just say that out loud? Did you see? And then what? 10 seconds later, dude from El Farolito hit a screamer, the biggest screamer I've seen all season. And then I'm thinking, did I just jinx it for the whole thing? So those are my two. Those are my two goals.
It's interesting you mentioned saying something because I remember at the Rastosi game coming up to you and going ahead and starting to plan for Carlos and a national championship preview. And you said,
shut up.
I don't want to talk about it. Right. Don't talk. And really, honestly, that was kind of my like, oh, crap. Because I remember going back to my seat, and that's when Mickey hit the turf. And I didn't know the kind of the story behind it, but I thought, oh, my God, what have I done? I've jinxed us. Now Mickey's hurt. Now we're screwed. Dude, I said that to myself. Like, oh, my God.
And in that game, I think didn't they hit the bar? Like, they scored, right? Like, last kick of the game hit the bar, which would have made it 2-2. Anyway.
I mean, it turned out that was the toughest game. I mean, the app game was insane for sure.
Yes. I mean,
but that
obviously,
Rastosi team was good.
That goal will live forever. And like being able to be there and call that, like scream my head off was absolutely nuts.
Oh, I've listened to your call 100 times, if not 1,000. It was so good.
Well, I tell you what, y'all are, and our fans are the only ones that liked it because I can tell you, App, they hated it. Lubbock everybody hated it, which I'm fine with.
Hey, welcome to lower league sports, man. We got our homer on the mic. That's the way it works.
But, talking about Mickey and how he, his first match out was against Asheville and got obliterated. But so my, I guess, close second game would be against Bristol because he made two amazing saves that kept it a draw, and I guess really solidified the place in the table that we could then have home field. So, like, that was for me, that was, Jasper, he's here, but Mickey is every bit up there as well.
Speaking of Bristol, boy, they give us fits when we go there. I mean, give them some credit. They give us fits.
Bristol's a great club, and they are tough at home.
Yeah, especially for a team. Tough. I mean, they had nothing to play for at that point, so it's really easy to just kind of be down and out. And we were that was the one game my parents went to. They flew from Florida. Literally, they came to watch Hickory FC, and I was like, we're gonna blow this team out. We're like, their season's done. We're fighting for number 1 seed. This is game over. And I was like, whew.
No, they fight with a lot of pride. That team does.
Yeah.
For sure.
But one thing I think is really interesting too that you brought up, like, and I personally think is really awesome is, I mean, you mentioned that you don't like to be kind of too in the middle of the fans. I'm sure get bothered all game, like, hey. So you're like, listen, man, I'm stressing out. But I gotta say, I remember first season there was a few times before I really knew who you guys were, just like seeing you guys like in the community. I think there was one game Tom was standing behind the supporter section. He's just sitting there like a regular fan. I'm like, I went to my girlfriend. I was like, I think he's one of the owners. Like, what is he doing here? And see Eric walking around too. So like, I'm sure people also appreciate that, but that's personally something that sticks out a lot. Whether it's early on, just like that. Oh shoot, like these are the head honchos. They're with us. They're here, and you can walk up to them and chat with them. So definitely big kudos for that. So I think that's really cool. But to kind of circle back, I will say I think my favorite game was the first year away game at App for the conference championship, because I remember, first off, I was working, so I showed up before kickoff but late, and I remember just like piling into the stands, and I was like, this is the atmosphere. This is the goal, you know. And I mean, mind you, it's a smaller stadium, so that's a big part of it. But the ambiance, the atmosphere, everyone was screaming. Like, we're like making up chants as we go, and everyone's in it. You know, it's not like those like, you know, sometimes you go to minor league games and you're like, all right, let's go defense, and like no one does it. You know, here we could say anything. We were like, Tres a zero. Everyone's doing it. They're like, I'm in, throwing their waters, their beers in the air. So I love that.
Well, go back to that game because there's a couple of things. Number one, I love that you guys, the supporters, were mixed in with the fans in that game, because all of a sudden it became real homogenized. Like everybody was a supporter, everybody was part of the 28601, right? It really felt that way. While we're on the topic, might as well just throw some competitive shade in a loving way. App broke a record for attendance that game. You're welcome.
Yeah, and our guys spent too long in the changing rooms as well.
Yeah,
you remember?
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
I've got the video of them singing in there, and that's getting yelled at for them to
Get the guys out of the changing room.
Get
Sorry
them out of
about
there. But you know what? I think we brought. I mean, we were well over 1,000 fans came down the hill, went up the hill to go see that.
Yeah.
To see that match.
What's funny about that too is, to me, that's like peak minor league sports. It's like this really small stadium. It's like what is it? The Vermont FC.
Mm-hmm.
They play in these stadiums that only fit like 1,000 to 2,000 people, and it's just like packed. And what I think is funny about it is, like, when I'm thinking about this, I don't even like associate us with that, you know, because we're bigger than that. But I just that's the thing I love. But that's like the atmosphere that, like, I can't wait till we. It's not like if we're gonna get there. I can't wait till we get there when the supporter section is bumping. Even the people in the crowd who want to be a little bit dispersed from it, but hear it. I love that. I love that. Did we all talk about our favorite stuff?
So my favorite moment, and I won't say it wasn't a goal from this past season, so changing it up a little bit. So I tried, like Eric, you know, he keeps his distance from the players and whatnot, and I do the same. I try to, you know, there's a separation between myself, the players, everybody else. But seeing Diego come in the conference final and getting the assist, just knowing what he went through with his injury and coming back and having that moment for him, that's what I'll remember the most from this season. Yes, the trophies are great, the goals are tremendous, the celebrations, but seeing him overcome the adversity that he overcome, that was a moment's going to stick with me forever.
You could really tell, and I can't remember if it was Chris or Jackson or Allie. Somebody took a photo where he's hugging Carlos, and you can see him. He's bawling, and you can tell, like, that was hit. Like, even though he didn't score the goal, that was his moment.
Yep.
And he deserves it. He absolutely, like, he's a fan favorite. Everybody loves him, and to come back from, how long was it? A year and a half?
No, not quite a year. So it was probably about 10 months.
Okay.
But, you know, subbing in that game, in that moment. There was a text that Carlos sent to him earlier in the year, you know, kind of foreshadowing that he was going to help us win the conference championship, and just came to fruition. You know, it's kind of like a storybook ending for him in that moment. And so just seeing that happen, just seeing everything he fought through, it was incredible.
That's why I think that's got to be the moment of the year, that whole scenario and sequence and everything, and that will live for me. That'll just live forever. It's just such an iconic moment.
Yeah, and it's funny because one of the things that I've also kind of talked about in the past that I think is cool and fascinating is, first off, I mean, to be like fully realistic, you know, 90% of these guys, like, they're kind of nearing the end of their career. I mean, we can keep bragging about how we're becoming this pipeline to professional contracts, but in all honesty, you know, I love that we're creating an experience for these guys where, you know, in 2 years from now, they may just be working jobs like us Joe Schmoes, you know, but, like, we have the opportunity to give them an experience to, like, feel this and have that. And I think when it really solidified for me was when we interviewed Antonio 2 weeks ago, and one of us asked him, and we're like, what are you going to remember 10 years from now? And, you know, sometimes I ask these questions, I'm like, I know what they're going to say. He's going to say, I remember lifting the trophy, or some regular answer. And, like, without skipping a beat, he was like, my friends, like the friendships, you know, I'm going to remember these guys. These are going to be my friends forever, you know. And it wasn't like a BS answer either. You could see he was like totally legit. And that's when it like really came full circle. I was like, and again, it's so cheesy, but like it's so much more than the game, the championships. Like these are what's gonna these guys are gonna remember forever. I've made friendships from this that I'm gonna stick with forever. And I think that's like a deeper level that is just so cool for like a 4th division soccer team in America. It's crazy. It's crazy to think about.
And that's one thing I try to get across to the guys. And I won't name names. I was sitting with one player in the tunnel after the game. He didn't think he had a particularly great game. And we won the game. Everything went well. It was a great game. He didn't think he played well. And Carlos was out on the field playing with his son. And I told him, I was like, look what you just did. You had a part in that. I was like, Carlos, 10 years from now, is not going to remember the outcome of this game, but he will remember that moment. That's what you guys are helping to create. And so that I try to instill that in the guys whenever I can. So, like, the experiences is what's going to be remembered. The trophies are great. The goals are great. But all that stuff's going to fade. The experience is what's going to last.
Yeah. No, it's incredible. Kind of the next step of questions that I was kind of curious about. Again, I like to bring in aspects that the fans may not see, but it adds a level of like intricacy that we don't think about. But I'm kind of curious about like what are some of the biggest like logistical challenges that we face this year and kind of your guys' sides of things. So I think the first one that comes to mind was that whole Port City deal. You know, I mean, we saw a certain aspect of it. You know, we see people walking around talking, but like, what was your side of things? Like, how did that all play out? And I know online, the social media presence, their fans were definitely not upset, but I'm kind of curious what your guys' experience with that was, and how do you sort through that?
You want to go first? JR probably can talk more about the logistics.
So there were 2 logistical issues this year. Port City, you mentioned the first one, and then getting out to San Francisco. The Port City game was so unique in the fact that none of us ever thought that would happen. You know, we knew we could be delayed up to 3 hours before kickoff, and that was fine. No one ever anticipated, like, okay, this storm's going to keep rolling on for 6 hours. And it's like we wouldn't have, you know, I was just figuring in my head after the game was called, I was like, we wouldn't have kicked off probably until 12:30, 1 o'clock, the way that storm went, which was unbelievable. So sitting there on the phone with the league, talking to the coaches, our coaching staff, their coaching staff, trying to put out communication as to what's going on, because none of us, like I said, none of us anticipated that game actually getting canceled. We thought the storms would pass, but they just kept building behind each other and rolling on through, and the lightning tracker, it would look pretty good for a while, and then 5 minutes later, it's like, guess what? There's 250 strikes within 5 miles. Like, all right, well, we're not playing right now for a while. So getting all of that down and making sure that, okay, this game's not going to be played, making sure we had the staff in place, getting everything in place with the league. And we had done this the week leading up to that game. We made sure the facility was in place if we had to kick off the following morning, made sure the team was ready, the referees are ready, staff was ready. So, like, we were ready to play the next day if it came to that. So we had our emergency plan in place, never thought we would use it. But actually going through that scenario and all the chaos and all the uncertainty and trying to answer all the questions of the people that's coming from the stands, coming from online, you know, because in that moment, it's really like, well, we're going to wait and see, right? We got to see what the weather does. That's the ultimate X factor in all of this since we play outdoors. It's like the weather could clear up, we could be kicking off here in 45 minutes. Or like this one, storms kept building behind one another and we didn't get to play. Now, San Francisco, planning a trip out to San Francisco on 2 days' notice for 30 people and getting all that, that's a whole different logistical issue.
But on the Port City, I think, first off, we have to give JR a shout-out. I mean, the bottom line is the league has rules that are in place for that exact scenario. And thanks to JR, of course, we were prepared to really deal with whatever was thrown at us. And then we obviously had a different, I guess, seat with what was going on with, you know, obviously Port City requesting certain things and other teams and people getting involved in the situation where, you know, obviously there's a social media post that Port City threw out, and obviously we took a lot of crap, to be honest. But the reality is, you know, we had to also stand firm and be like, look, we're prepared for this. The rules are in place, and we owe it to everyone involved with Hickory FC to stand firm. And we had to work through a lot of difficult conversations and, you know, piss off a few people probably.
Yeah, and Tom and I are fine being the ones that take the smoke on stuff like that. You know, Johnathon and his staff did a fantastic job of making sure that any scenario that went down, we were prepared for it. But we can't control what the other club does. just like we can't control the weather. Now, there were things that we learned from it, though. There's things that we know we can do better next time when this happens again, because there will be another game where lightning strikes every 15 minutes for 4 hours and you don't get a game in. And some of it was we could do a better job of communicating with our fans through social media, through what graphics that are put up on the Jumbotron, through things that our PA announcer is announcing, things that we could get out to the community like you guys to go spread the word, because we know if I tell Max, the whole 28601 now knows. If I tell Gavin, he can post it to his social, and everybody that follows his podcast can now know. We didn't do a great job of it, but it was also our first time when we needed to get punched in the face with that to go make that happen. The back and forth with what the other club wanted to claim was just fully inaccurate, and I'm sure it was a quick way of them trying to save face a little bit. And by the way, God bless their fans. They're passionate also. They don't want their team to not play or to lose in a forfeit. What a horrible way to lose when this is your chance to do something special. Tom and I, we might get a little bit emotional. We start reading things and people start saying, the reason that happened is because Hickory was scared that they were going to lose to Port City. Well, I hate to tell you, Port City fans, that was the last thing that was on our mind, quite frankly. It was doing right by the rules, right by the league, right by our facilities, right by our fans, and it's the way that it shook out.
Yeah, that was a very interesting situation. I remember sitting up in the booth just kind of like, well, are we going to play? We're not going to play? What's happening? So with a we really didn't touch on the national championship that much, but with a national I mean, if you want to talk about the logistics of getting out there and everything, you can.
Certainly. So, oh man, I tried to erase some of this from my memory just to protect myself.
I'm sorry to open up that wound.
You're good. So, after the Restosa game, we knew there was a possibility, hey, we're going across country. We're going to San Francisco. So God bless these guys. They did everything in their power to get the game here. Didn't work out in our favor. And so, day after the Restosa game, it's confirmed, hey, you're going out to San Francisco. It's like, all right, well, we can't just fly out to San Francisco on the game day, go out there, land, play a game. Like, we got to get out there early. So, realistically, we had Monday and Tuesday to plan flights, travel, hotel rooms, food, training schedules, meetings with the NPSL, everything in 2 days.
For how many people?
30 people, getting everything out there.
I think it ended up being a little bit more.
It was a little bit more, but that's okay. We'll say 30. 30 is what I could definitely say. But there's a little bit more than 30. So, and going through all these flights, preemptively leading up to the Restosa game, just in case this scenario played out, I reached out to the league. I was like, hey, just hypothetical. We have to go to San Francisco for the national championship game. What are flights looking like, just in case? They're like, well, at this time, the most amount of people we can get on one flight out to San Francisco is 4. I was like, that's a problem. And they're all connecting flights as well. So in my head, leading up to the Restosa game, I'm like, please, El Farolito, please lose so I don't have to actually possibly plan this, or please let's somehow get this home game. And everything worked out. We ended up getting on 2 nonstop flights out there. They were a little later. Second flight was delayed, but whatever. Yeah, different cities. Yeah, we flew into Sacramento, drove up to San Francisco. Much easier logistically to do that. Honestly, the hardest part was just finding transport when we were out there, getting a couple of vans out there. That was hard to find.
Part. It took us till the last second
find
a solution for vans so that the team could get driven around together.
Yeah. And so that was really difficult. And then after the game, obviously, like these guys, they have to get back to their colleges. They have to get back to their jobs. So we fly out there with 30. We fly back with 24. So getting flights booked out of San Francisco, going back to wherever they were, or getting guys back to Charlotte earlier than what the rest of the team arrived so they could get to their schools or their jobs. It was just so many layers. And, it was really a test in all of our abilities to be able to just organize things and just work through one problem. Just focus on one thing and then get to the next one. Not getting too far of yourself, because if you'd have looked at the big picture of everything that needed to be done, you probably would have froze, right? But it was like, okay, we need transportation. Let's work on that. We need flights. Let's do that. We need food. Here's our training schedule. Here's this and that. And just working through it one thing at a time. But it was a busy 2 days. I will say that. And a lot of it, like I said, I've tried to forget and push out of my head. But it was a great exercise. It really was. And luckily, everybody stepped up. Staff did exceptionally well. Guys did exceptionally well. Ownership obviously did exceptionally well. a wonderful experience. I think we did the best we possibly could under the circumstances, and it all worked out, obviously, in the end.
Well, and I think it's worth our fans hearing that story, because as great as it was to win that game, those boys went through a lot in 2 or 3 days to get to the point where they're finally on the pitch warming up for the match. I mean, we had an issue with training, and they really didn't get a training session in when they were out there. And Coach Rubio and his staff had fun with it. Instead of turning into a problem, they flipped it into sort of a mental exercise that ended up being a really positive thing. But to think that they went through all of that and then went out and slayed the dragon, a team that never loses, a team that embarrasses other teams generally, quite frankly, was something really, really special. And we can talk about it if you want, but there was a lot of effort that was made to get that game here.
I got the questions ready.
Because I know
I'm so curious.
We still get hit with that. It was a shame that it wasn't here, but they've never heard the story.
Yeah. I mean, I have questions ready, but I think it would be easier. Just tell us what your experience with that discussion was. I mean, we talked about it a few times on the podcast, and I've talked about it with so many people. I'm so curious, what it looked like, how open were they listening, did it get nixed, or even things like I know originally they mentioned the West would travel, and they did for that semifinal match, but then not so I'll just open it, let you guys tell us what your side was.
So everything was ultimately in the end done by the book, right? Like the playoff situation was a little complicated, and to be really honest, I don't think we fully understood it until we were there and in it, right? I mean, there was different communications and whatnot, but they were the highest seed, right?
They earned the right to play at home,
right.
period.
But we obviously did what we could. So we started with Santiago, who owns El Farolito, and he's also the head coach. And, this is a team that's been around for a long, long time, but they're a very different operation to Hickory FC from the perspective of they are there and they want to win, and they want to qualify for the US Open Cup, and they want to go as deep as they can in that competition. That is what El Farolito's focus is. So we did everything we could, but Santiago, in the end, again, had the right to decided that he didn't want his team to travel, the players didn't want to travel, and we had to make it happen. But there were a lot of different conversations. I mean, we were on the phone one time. I think it was we were on the phone at 10 o'clock on the Friday night with Santiago, and then on with the league at 11:30 p.m. at night before we played Ristosi the next day, just working on this potential hypothetical to try get a deal done one way or another.
Well, and we're using to our advantage, showing off what our community has pulled off here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Forget the owners, forget the players and the coaching staff. Let's just look at this stadium, y'all. Do you not want this to be something the entire country sees and all other leagues sees? And what a special thing that this could be. But to Tom's point, Santiago and El Farolito earned the right to make that decision. So I'll give you a little more context, though. So if this was a Netflix documentary, right? So I'm sitting outside in the dark in an Adirondack chair, again, so that my wife doesn't have to hear me yap, right? And it's me and Tom and Santiago. And we have a long conversation. And at the end of the conversation, I think we're verbally there. I mean, it was verbal. We had a verbal agreement.
We did.
That it was going to come to Hickory. So I go inside all quietly into our little sunroom where we watch TV or whatever, and Nikki looks at me and it's like, I think we got it. But we can't say anything because we need documentation, we need paperwork, we need an email exchange, something. 20 minutes later, you call me, I think. I don't think he texted us both.
Because I think I was on with the league because we had to work out some things with them.
And the league was going to be fine with it, whatever both teams decided. But then about 20 minutes later, Santiago messages us or messages you, and you let me know. Maybe it was And what he said was that he went back to his players, and his players said no. Yeah. And you know what? They reserved the right to say no. They just had to go to Michigan to play in a game. Most of their players are former pro players that have full-time jobs. So for them to now leave again to come cross-country, whatever offer we were willing to make them, it wasn't going to fit into their business model. And so for our fans, we did everything we could. We were willing to we were willing to do something big to try to get it.
Yeah, because I mean, like logistically, it makes so much sense on so many levels. And I mean, I think I've ranted about this before, but like you could theoretically lay out an offer that's like, we're gonna spend this money anyways. We'll pay for your flights. We'll pay for your hotels, which can be way cheaper. We'll pay for your transportation, way cheap. Like this is all logistically makes sense. And something I also recently thought of that, like bringing up the fact that these are all like former professional players. I think that actually holds like a huge disadvantage. I mean, if you've got a team of college players, like, hey, you want to fly to a new town you've never been to before for free and like play a national championship game in front of 6,000 people. I mean, any 21-year-old, 22-year-old is going to be like, oh, yeah, that sounds sick, free flight, big game in front of a huge crowd. When you got a bunch of like 35 to 40-year-old ex-Colombian players who are like, dog, that's nothing new to us. I just want to be with my family. It's like, it sucks.
It's exactly it. That is exactly what happened, basically, in the end.
Yeah, and retrospectively, I guess it makes sense. But dang, it sucks because I'm sure the NPSL was breathing too, because like you have an opportunity to show a performance in front of a crazy fan base, and I think that's why some of us were hoping they were just going to pull the trigger and say, because I think technically on their website, we did follow the rules of the book, but I vividly remember that at the bottom it said we do reserve the right to change at any point in time. So there was like this little hope in me that was saying, you know, they have an opportunity here to put on a performance, like an entertaining performance. What if they just ripped it, you know? But maybe it's the golden child aspect that they didn't want to.
Look, I tell you one thing that I really loved through that whole thing was people like you and others that were saying things so that we didn't have to say it.
The comments.
No, you guys owned it, and we were watching. And if somebody was way off base, we would be prepared to have to correct. But there was not much that was off base. It was you guys nailed it. You know, something else I'll say from that game on the logistics side, there was one thing we didn't think about. We didn't think about what do we do after we win. And so here we are in the Mission District of San Francisco with a bunch of, you know, good-looking international European 20-some-year-old dudes that are riding high off of a national championship.
Time to party.
And Carlos comes up to me, gives me a hug. We're both, you know, kind of emotional or whatever. And I looked at him. I said, "Okay, I'm not trying to spoil the party, but I need to ask you something." I said, "Coach, I have no plan. We have no plan. I don't know what to do now, and I'm scared to death to let them loose in the Mission District." and Coach Rubio, and this is why he's the best, very calmly, he looked at me and said, "We're going back to the hotel." And it was like one of these, like, thank you, Coach Rubio, so I don't have to stress out about these boys running. Now, a few of them might have let themselves loose about 4 hours later that we lost track
and the
of,
hotel
but they
set a
did.
record. Record.
I think we shut the bar down, and they had a record bill that night that everybody was happy to watch. I don't know if it was you or me. I think I was holding the credit card that night.
I don't know. Yeah, didn't matter.
Hey, we hit a number that was so big at that point. What difference does it make? Number one, the expense was huge, and we won the national championship. So let's go have some fun.
So you mentioned that, you know, I think we all were in agreement that we would love to have had it here, because we know that I think the sellout or the max capacity is what, 7,200, 7,500, something like that. We know there'd be more people than that trying to go. It'd be standing room only. But I think, and I've said it before, like, yes, it would have been amazing to have it here. But I think the story of going out there and beating them on their own pitch, I don't know, it just hits different. It's just a different story.
You're right.
Than it would have been amazing to have it here and have the fans going nuts and this, that, and the other. But going out there and slaying the dragon was
well, then we got to come home and see these videos from Barley Market and see these videos from the station and from McGuire's. Like, I'm hearing about places that say, "Oh yeah, I watched the national championship at such and such," and that restaurant's not one that we've ever even spoken to. But Kickback Jack's had it on, you know, right off the interstate. I didn't know that until a week or two later. You know, one thing that I thought of us doing and we sort of forgot about was to have people send their videos from the national championship game, just send them to us and let us collect that content and then do something kind of cool with it. But that was really special. When I went to eat at McGuire's about a month later, there was a whole table of guys. You know, this is a month after the national championship game, and I could tell they were kind of looking at me and Nikki. And then I realized why. They knew who we were, and they wanted to tell us. We were here that night, and it was wall to wall. It was insane. And so to your point, Gavin, it would have been incredible at home. I wouldn't have traded that for anything. But the fact that it wasn't at home, that then you have these other little things that happened, is pretty special also.
I mean, I still watch our video at Barley Market, and we're sitting there jumping up and down. I'm trying to hold my pants up from falling down. And we're all going nuts. Like, I don't know, like, even though it is in PSL, like, this is a moment, a season that, to me, it's like, and you know, I was on Lenny's podcast, and I was talking about my kids and what this offers me and my kids, and I hope I don't start crying talking about me and my son, but, like, it's a moment that I'll remember. Like, we can enjoy this together, you know? And being a Reading fan and a fan forever and ever and ever, and generations have been, you know, you're probably a fan because your dad was a fan, or, you know, something like that. Like, my son will be a fan because I was a fan. And it's just, this season is just, it's insane to talk about and relive and be like, man, I was there. So, talking about the national championship, we won, all the memories. It feels like you guys, and I guess us as fans, like, we've established the team as something more than just a football club. Like, it is truly I don't know what you'd say, like a community thing that we can all enjoy. So the question is like, going into next year, what's next? And I know you probably started planning as soon as the championship was over.
He took a week off. He took 1 week.
I took a couple of days. Yeah. So, later. Yeah, like about a little over a month after I went to the beach. But
He burned through his 3 days of PTO.
yeah. So, and that's the blessing and the curse. I will say personally, with my mind, I thoroughly enjoyed the national championship, honestly, until the trophy lift. Immediately after the trophy lift, I was like, season 3. Immediately after. So, like, yes, I enjoyed that night, but immediately after the trophy lift, my mind shifted to season 3. I don't know why, but I was like, all right, we're behind. We got to catch up, right? We got to going into season 3. And there's so many things coming in season 3, so many opportunities this national championship has afforded us, that the community has afforded us, that we're excited to reveal. You know, obviously not going to give any hints or spoilers, but just know that every single year, the experience is going to be better and better. The community is going to be at the forefront of our minds. How can we make sure it's an experience that our community can be proud of, the team can be proud of, that the guys on the team want to be a part of, the crowd they want to be in front of? Like, these guys that come, and this is one thing I told the guys whenever they got back, one thing I can't thank these guys enough for is their time, right? We can never get our time back. The fact that the guys that commit to Hickory FC come here for a summer, Little Hickory, North Carolina, don't go home to their families, don't take time to take a break. The fact they come here, we take that very seriously. It's like, all right, we're going to provide the best possible experience for them that we can provide. So season 3, I've been planning it since right after the trophy lift. I will say that.
I mean, we have a Monday morning meeting. The ownership group meets at least every other week, if not more. And we didn't take much of a break from that after the national championship game. And Johnathon, JR, you bring up a good point that I guess I didn't really even think about until just now, and that is, when you go that deep in the playoffs, you actually are behind. Because most teams have now a week or 2 weeks or even a month ahead of you on planning. You know, we're so focused on planning for a cross-country trip with 30-plus people. You're not planning on the next season, but JR, the ownership, the club, we've been working on some things and some cool stuff that'll pop over the next several months, and we're excited. Hey, by the way, before, I know you have something to say, but I'm gonna challenge the two of you with something. We need to come up with a name for the community, the Hickory FC community. We need to come up with a name for the people, the group. I mean, the supporters group has a name, but you know what I mean? Like, so you know what we mean when we say the community, but the community should have a name. So I'm not saying we have to solve this problem right now. It's not a problem.
Gavin, you got 30 seconds.
Right?
Figure it out, man.
That's your task before next season.
It's so interesting. Like, what you said before, I thought was really cool about, like, how a lot of this stuff is so organic and comes from the community. And I think what I immediately thought of is, one night I was with Elder, the vice president of the 28, and we were at McGuire's. And I don't remember. I think this guy came up to us, or we came up to him, and we were talking about soccer. And he goes, "Oh, yeah, you mean the FC games?" I was like, "The what? What did you just call it?" But then, and it was like, it was so natural. Like, it was just like, he was like, yeah, dude, we love going to the FC games. And his friend's like, yeah, my mom's an FC season ticket holder.
That's awesome.
But then it's like those things that at first you're like, dude, what the heck did you just say? That was so dumb. And then I keep saying it in your head, and I'm like, wait, that was kind of legit. That was pretty cool. I like that. So I love that. So I guess that's the new task we got to look out for. But one thing I'm kind of curious about too, we've talked about this kind of like storybook year that we've had, and actually before we started recording, or Lenny may have already been recording, he just hit record when we started saying cool stuff about how we probably missed out on a prime Netflix docuseries year. Would have been absolutely beautiful, you know. So I guess we'll just have to pick who our actors are going to be playing us. But regardless, looking forward, I'm kind of curious, you know, as Gavin always says, you know, sometimes his eyes are bigger than his stomach, but what 10 years from now, what are you most excited for about this club? I say 10 years because it's enough time to really, really grow, and you can really think about the endless possibilities. What first comes to mind for me, having grown up in Florida, I went to University of Miami, so I was in Miami, so seeing the whole Freedom Park project that Inter Miami is doing, I think is super cool. So for me, something like that, where you've got just like a park with a stadium and restaurants and little venues, things like that. I think that's really cool. But what's your guys' vision, even if it's kind of above and beyond? What are you most excited? Like, what excites you most about the future of this team?
Yeah, I mean, 10 years, of course, we're talking way out, right? There's a lot going on in the US soccer landscape right now, which, again, a lot of our fans probably don't know. But obviously, minor league, you have the NPSL, right? You have USL League 2, which has a USL League 1, a USL Championship, and then they've just announced a top division as well to compete with the MLS, right? Then we have, of course, the MLS. So that whole landscape probably really plays into where we are in 10 years. So what's our goal kind of moving forward into next year and beyond? Our job is to strategically make sure that we're in the best place for us when it comes to every single part of the business. The whiteboard has everything on it, man. Like when I say, like, you say how big do you want it to be? As big as it can be, right? All the way from, I think it'd be sick to have a full-time professional team. Do we have enough data quite yet to know that can be sustainable? Because it's one thing to just say, we want to be a pro team, but obviously that it has to work within the community and everything has to be sustainable, right? Like you go from playing, 7, 8 home games a year to the expectation of them playing 30 games throughout a season plus playoffs and then 15 home games a year. Is there that level of excitement? We don't quite know yet. But is it on the whiteboard? Hell yeah, everything's on the whiteboard to get as exciting as we can, and it's just taking it really, frankly, day by day, especially at the moment, and then season by season to make sure we're making the best decisions for the community, and the community will probably guide our decision making a bit on some level as well over the next
in software and tech, which is what I do to pay the bills. You've got your roadmap, which is the whiteboard. There's just tons of stuff on the roadmap. And then you've got things that are in production. You're actually putting work on it. Then you've got things that are in QA. The user doesn't know about it yet, but it's happening in the background. And then you start to throw it into, an MVP, a most viable product, where maybe there's a feature but it's not the full feature. You're just seeing the beginning of the feature. And so I think our club is very similar. We have an extensive roadmap. There are no such thing as bad ideas in the moment. There might be bad ideas after the moment, but in the moment, let's just get it up there. I think minimally for us, we all agreed this is not an income business for the owners. We want to put every dollar back into making it better and better and better, or fixing problems that come up that are maybe surprises. If in 20 years from now, we're still a lower league team getting 6,000 or 7,000 people to games with families generating memories forever, that would not be a bad thing. However, we want to run it in such a way, and I think we are running it in such a way where there are options for something else. I was going to say a lot more, but what is more than that? What's really more than that? When you're lying on your deathbed and you're thinking about your greatest memories, and maybe Hickory FC pops into that, or a moment at a game, that's a pretty special thing, right? But can you run the business in such a way where should Ryan Reynolds pick up the phone and call me someday and say, hey, I got this bucket of money and all these contacts, and we see Western North Carolina as a pin on the map. What do you think? Well, I want to be able to show him, we want to be able to show him a product that is viable for whatever that level is. And so far we've done that, and we want to continue to do that. But if we stay the way we are, and it's awesome for the next 20 years, and it's a special thing for this town, that wouldn't be a failure either.
So one of the things that you've kind of hinted at, and I'm kind of interested in, is, you know, with the amount of season tickets that I know you've had to have gotten already after the national championship, like, how on earth do you keep offering a jersey with the season ticket? But more so, like, how do you keep, because, and it's been mentioned by families, like, it's a cheap alternative for a great night out, an amazing night out, really. And it's cheaper than going, you know, who knows where. So how do you maintain the affordability of it? But how do you keep, and I'm thankful of getting a shirt. I mean, don't get me wrong, please do. But it can't be affordable to do that, right?
Probably
I was
probably
curious
lose
that you
money.
moved the microphone over to
So
Johnathon.
JR can go through like the numbers and whatnot a little bit, but I mean the reality is, I'll just openly say, like, we don't make money on season tickets at all, right? We probably lose money on them over.
Our margins
I mean, it's so
incredibly thin on season ticket purchases where you're getting the kit. I mean, you all know what you pay for a kit if you go to a store and buy a kit. Right?
Absolutely.
And our kits are never going to be low quality, so it's not as if we're putting together a blended cotton T-shirt that we're giving away with it as well. Margins are really, really thin. However, well, I'm not going to however. Jonathan, whatever you were going to say it, and then I'll follow it up with a
Yes,
thought.
certainly. So, I mean, thanks to ownership, you know, one of the goals is we want this to be something that's affordable for the community. We want something that everybody can participate in, you know, and feel like they're a part of, right? So you never want to outprice the community and, you know, alienate anyone. Now, should our prices be higher for season tickets with the jersey included? 100%. 100%. Because like Erica Tom said, it is razor thin margins there. We are not making a lot of money off season tickets, so buy your 2026 season tickets now, please. Yes.
Say it
so
again.
buy your 2026 season tickets now. You need to. It is by far the best deal we run. But the thing is, these first few years, the goal is to get butts in seats, right? Like, we want people to come out. We want the community to come out. We want the product to sell itself. And we have such belief in this product that we know if we make this an affordable product, that people are going to come out, have the experience, and be like, this is something I want to be a part of for the long haul, right? And so, again, it all goes back to the community and making sure that the community can be involved and that it's something they can be proud of.
You know, had we raised season ticket prices by $15 per season ticket with the same giveaways in year 2, I'll ask the two of you, because you're season ticket purchasers, would that have kept you from buying a season ticket?
No.
Okay, and you not only did you say, you shake your head no, you gave me a face like that was a silly question.
Yeah, that's absolutely. I mean, you're talking to me like I don't know if
You're the wrong person to ask.
If you'd even double it, like I'm good with that. I mean, I'm spending, when I look at buying United shirts, I'm spending $150, $160 just for a shirt. So even if the season ticket was $200, take my money.
You understand the value, and then then we win a national championship. I mean, who doesn't like increase your prices by 20, 30, 40% because of that? I think everything JR said was right. Year 1, you've got no proof of concept. Nobody knows how to value the product. So you need to do it in such a way where people can come give you feedback and value the product. Well, that went really well, and we crushed it in year 2 with attendance. Year 3, we could have done it as well. Me personally, and I think as an ownership group, I shouldn't say just me personally, we didn't feel like the timing was right yet to start messing with that. That time will probably come. Things get more expensive. You go to a restaurant, and you notice tomatoes are a little more expensive and bread's a little. So all of a sudden, the sandwich you got for $7 is now $12. But you still buy the sandwich. You still go do that. Not to get into politics, because that's not the point. But we are in an environment right now. Like, I see us as the tariff buster. Put it that way. While everything is going up because of tariffs and there's a tax on Americans on everything that you spend money on, well, how about let's keep this the way it is for just a moment. And I hope that what that means is that neighbors tell their neighbors and families tell their friends and businesses tell their employees. And we end up with 10,000 people, which we couldn't fit into that stadium, and we'll worry about that problem when we get it. But there will be a moment where those prices change because of the expense to the club. But for now, we've made a decision to keep it the same. We also have an ownership group that is very savvy and was willing to overfund in the early stages of the club so that we could afford to do those things.
Yeah,
and I'm super happy and proud that we did it that way.
That was one of the things I was going to ask is, I mean, we can say, like, this isn't about the money, but at a certain point, you know, if you're just hemorrhaging cash, there's a certain point where you're like, all right, this is not doable. So I wonder, again, I always talk about, like, the positive feedback cycle. Like, I'm sure this is a big part of it, you know, such strong sponsorships and the community businesses that we're working with are allowing us to do that. But that is only possible because of the fact of the support. You know, you get more supporters, fans, butts in seats, then you get bigger companies that want to have these strong connections with you that allow you to keep those prices more. It's like so many aspects of this positive feedback cycle. Like I've talked about, like, getting good players, winning games, more fans means better players, which means winning more. It's like so many of these positive feedback cycles,
well said.
which I think is cool. But it's also so tough because, I mean, we're big soccer fans, so we follow things. And I know you can see a Premier League team or a Serie A team will raise prices 10%, which in my mind, like, maybe I'm biased because American sports are so expensive. But when you see a season ticket go from like $1,000 to $1,100, I'm like, whatever. I get it. I understand that there's nuances, cost increases, but people don't take that stuff lightly. No. Like, even if you made the ticket $10 to $12, $15, there's gonna be backlash. So it's such a fine line you're walking. So I respect that, but it's tough.
And there's also a lot of intent behind why we do it, right? Like, I always think about the first conversation, or maybe it was the second with the Print Path guys, right? First season, and for those that don't know, Print Path, wonderful local company, they make a lot of our cool signage and stuff like that. And one of the things they said, which I don't even think we realized we were doing at the time, was the guerrilla style marketing, where, the season tickets are really, great value. We're giving away the jersey. But think about it from a sponsor perspective, guys. Like, now, all these people are wearing the jersey that was included with, and now it's visible everywhere. It's creating value for us, for sponsors. And every time you walk in Tasteful Beans in downtown or whatever it is, someone's wearing the jersey. So I think that from a marketing perspective as well, like, maybe we didn't even realize it at the time, but the intent behind it was obviously absolutely there. Guerrilla style. We learned something new that day. I didn't know what that was until they
guerrilla
said
marketing.
It. Guerrilla marketing. That's apparently what we did.
I think I stuck a Hickory FC sticker somewhere in London for that guerrilla marketing when I went and visited.
So we're viral there now.
Right.
So before Lenny tells us that we've time's up and it's time to go, I do have to put you on the spot. And I did say it before we started filming, but 2026 season 3, From the Roots Up, official podcast.
Oh, that was your question?
Official HFC podcast?
I was expecting.
Me either.
Well, let's talk about it.
Yeah, you can talk about it.
Talk about it. Okay.
Is that good enough answer? You want more?
Yeah, more would be great. More would be great. But no, seriously. So
build a business plan, make us a presentation, and we'll give it some thought.
Sophie puts together a wonderful presentation.
No, stay away from Sophie. She only does that for us.
So where are you getting your tattoos at? Your national championship tattoos?
I don't have any tattoos. So
well, I do. I
do.
There will be one. I haven't quite decided where it's going yet, but it'll. I tell you what, it'll be there before the next season starts.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah. You got that on camera.
Yeah. You heard it here first. Before Lenny tells us it's time up, I can't thank you guys enough for taking your time out to be here with us and kind of give us a real, like, owner's perspective of behind the scenes and just kind of go over the, starting a club from scratch and the community engagement and all of it. I really appreciate you guys coming and talking to us about it. And we've talked about it for a while, and I'm glad we finally could make it happen.
Of course, man.
Yep,
of course.
I appreciate
and we appreciate what you guys do. I know the 28601 is that takes a lot of work and effort and organization, and great job. We'd love to see that grow and expand. And Gavin, with what you're doing, from you doing it out of your home with clothes hanging on the back of your door, and me calling you up and saying, hey man, I think I might be able to help you do this a little bit better. You do a great job. Your passion is known, and it means a lot to the club, and the community feels that support. So thank you from us as well.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
And then just in addition, real quick, because we don't get to do it often in front of, when it's recorded in front of camera, just every single intern, obviously JR and his team, all of our social media team, just the whole community, anyone that's contributed in any way. We just want everyone to know that we're incredibly thankful, and it wouldn't obviously be the same without everyone that's touched Hickory FC in some way. So
yeah, Tom and I sometimes end up in front of it a little bit more, and I do think that there should be one or two people that are. If I have a question in the community, this is the person maybe I go to. JR usually is that person. But, the Pleasants, the Smiths, the Longs, the families that are owners, along with the Deeleys and the Levins, big deal. And if you see Jackson or Sophie or others walking around town with a trophy or doing something, like, give them a hug, show them some love. They're working really hard for peanuts, you know what I mean? And we couldn't do this stuff without them. And by the way, I know I say peanuts, Sophie, I hope that you feel like it's valuable also, right?
Well, again, I can't thank you guys enough. For Eric, Tom, Johnathon, Max, I've got to thank, of course, the guys, the folks that we wouldn't be able to do this without. And I mean, Eric legitimately introduced me to Lenny, so we wouldn't be able to do this without Eric, without Lenny, without Chris, without Jay, without Jeremy. So thank you all for your contribution to allowing us to be here. Max, for agreeing to do this with me. It's been amazing. And with that, we talked about our favorite moments. In the comments, please leave yours. And with that, we thank you. Up the trees.